Growing up, I was diagnosed with a learning disability called dysgraphia. Now, most of you don't know what that is because for much of my life, I didn't even know what it was. But it's a neurological learning difference that causes difficulties in handwriting and fine motor skills. This continues to be one of my biggest insecurities. For much of my life, I felt weak and dumb that I could not write simple sentences properly, perform simple tasks such as cutting something, or constantly dropping stuff. I used to take physical therapy for this, and much of this was very unhelpful. In school, I used to get extra time in important exams, and while the staff who created my IEP were somewhat supportive, I felt so much shame, especially admitting to people I had extra time, when in reality, I needed extra time because I had a learning disability. Eventually, the shame and insecurity was too heavy for me, and I asked my mom to officially place me off an IEP. This required us to go to the Department of Education building for a screening test. The evaluator suggested that I should get evaluated for ADHD, as there was a likely high chance of me having this due to my dysgraphia and from the results of my evaluation. Now, my mom completely discounted this opportunity due to the stigma of ADHD at the time, and she ultimately feared if I were to have it that they would put me on medication. Now, in terms of education, I turned out pretty well. I graduated high school as one of the top students. I was one of the top students in writing in my high school, ironically. And I graduated from a top university on a full scholarship. So you would think, yeah, this guy definitely doesn't struggle with this, right?
Shortly after the pandemic, I saw my cousin for the first time since the pandemic, and he was officially diagnosed with ADHD. And it finally hit me what dysgraphia was and the other underlying effects that it permeated across my life. And I realized that I most likely have ADHD as well. And all of my academic achievements and other achievements in life leading up to this point was just through sheer willpower. In high school, I always felt like I had a chip on my shoulder, so I worked even extra harder in my studies. I essentially trucked through high school and college on a harder difficulty setting because I did not receive the adequate help in my studies. I did the equivalent of a level 1 Dark Souls full game run. And when I finally came to this realization, I started to analyze every aspect of my life. Every quirk that I did not have an explanation for, um, after I asked all the people closest to me around, I finally connected all the dots. I was a very talented writer in high school, but it took me hours to finish an essay because I was literally pacing around my house every couple minutes because I could not keep myself focused for a prolonged period of time. If I could not move around, I would open new tabs on my computer to research stupid stuff like what's the capital of Sudan, and that would lead me onto a 30-minute research tangent learning about sub-Saharan Africa. Or I would go on a doom scroll on Instagram before doom scrolling was actually a thing. Or I would look up the next quest in the video game I was going to play after I finished my essay. And in fact, I had to tell myself I could not play Forza until I finished creating this video, and I have to continue to create incentive structures just for me to get tasks done. I realized I constantly dropped things or lost things, and this was due to the fact my brain was constantly thinking 2 steps ahead. I developed a fear of losing things when I was a kid. I used to sleep with my toys under my pillow cover because I knew if they weren't within arm's reach, I would just lose them. And I would still lose them anyways. The impulsivity was another uncontrollable urge. In school, I would constantly play finger drums. And at the time, I thought it was just because I was a musician. But my best friend, who was also a drummer, did not do the same quirk as me. This behavior still continues to this day when I work in the office. I constantly have to have music playing in the background where I'm playing along the song with my hands or I'm humming to it to keep me focused. The hardest thing I've been trying to manage is interrupting others. I constantly do this in almost every single interaction, both formal and informal. And I would like to thank all my close friends and family who remained incredibly patient with me when I do this. I love you, and I'm sorry, but my brain works differently. Now, in terms of strengths, I want to preface this. I do think these quote unquote strengths come with a caveat because if you are someone who did not receive adequate help like myself, much of these strengths cannot be highlighted at all or at a very limited capacity. But to start, uh, if I'm distracted 90% of the time, that 10% of where I'm able to hyper focus is actually insane. And it's like it's like a Jimmy Neutron brain blast sometimes. I'd be surprised how quickly I could come up with ideas or like solutions to how to like figure something out. Like problem solving is a lot easier and quicker, especially at my workplace where things come up and I have to be the person who makes these informed decisions. When you move like you have a chip on your shoulder, you have a lot more resilience and courage than most people. And that gives you the courage to take risks and make that hard decision that you didn't think you would be possible. And lastly, the things that I have love and passion for, I'm going to put my 200%. And that energy does radiate to other types of people as well too. To end this video, I want to send a message to all my fellow neurodivergent people. When I first came to the realization on my learning disabilities, I coped hard and claimed that it was a superpower, when in reality it's not a superpower. It's not a trend, and this is personal to me. I'm not You can feel how you feel, but to me personally it's not something that I'm particularly proud of. And I honestly get very emotional thinking about this subject. I was honestly quite emotional writing this, and I had to re-record this a couple times. But what I've been through, it has caused a lot of insecurities that I will continue to deal with. And I cannot speak for you. Your experiences are individual to you. But the bigger message I also want to promote to people that are not neurodivergent is, I hope as we continue as a society that there's more normalization or destigmatization on people who are neurodivergent, because I think by destigmatizing neurodivergency, it's gonna help people get the help they need. I unfortunately did not get the help that I needed due to a large amount of stigmatization of neurodivergent people, especially amongst inner city communities. And admittedly, a lot of that was due to myself, and not seeking help or accepting the help that I needed. But it's something that, I fell victim to the stigmatization as well too. I think the next groundbreaking societal study that will come out is a large percentage of Gen Z will have some form of ADHD or other neurological or learning disabilities. And I think a large reason for that is, we grew up in the age of the internet and the tablets and the screens and all that stuff and social media brain rot. But if that data ever comes out, I think if it does or doesn't, we need to start the destigmatization here and now. And I can't necessarily speak for other people and their experiences, but the best I can do is express my own voice, speak for myself, and hopefully my story resonates with other people as well too. Part two, I think I'm gonna drop a part two about more on how I deal with it on a day-to-day basis, and maybe I can offer some advice for some people as well too. I think the advice is generally applicable to everybody. But anyways, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Click on the notification bell. Please share your thoughts with me. And peace be with you all.